Mr. Speaker, there's a prevailing sentiment that the senators are immune from outside influences right now. I've obviously disagree with that. What do you think?
I think they're far more resistant than House members are, both because of the election cycle and because in the Senate, virtually everybody every morning combs the hair of a future president and waits patiently for the current guy to finish screwing up so they can become the person that gets to run. So just a very different psychology being in the Senate. But I think if the pressure is large enough, if it begins to be a question of how do I go back home, I mean, because the problem becomes Trump is sufficiently popular among Republicans that if you're a Republican senator who wants to go home in the next 90 days, do you really want to be the guy who stood up against Donald Trump and have every person at the local diner or the local grocery store? I had this happen when I fought Bush on taxes. And even though I clearly represented the party base, there were enough Bush loyalists to come up to me and say, "You're a traitor." And they weren't negotiating or discussing. They were rendering judgment. And so I think that kind of pressure. I mean, President Trump is in an unusual position of moral authority inside the Republican Party in a way that I can't remember, even with Reagan. I don't remember quite this level of intensity.
Dan.
Far be it for me to question our preeminent historian here. Now, I mean, I guess my only question might be what you think of Trump's push for recess appointments. And
well, I think it tells you what 4 years of being able to think about what you learned starts to do for you. I think in the back of his head, he has a checklist of everything that could screw up getting things done. And I believe I think he instinctively knows that the 2026 election is the real crucible. And that therefore he has to build such momentum that people decide, like Roosevelt in 34, that they have enough hope in where he's going, that they're going to give him a few more seats. And that means he's got to be able to move fast. And he learned painfully that the system's designed to not move fast, and even when you want it to, and he's going to have a lot of folks trying to stop him. So I think you'll see him do a series of things that have been pretty well thought out. And this is partly the America First Policy Institute's work. But they've thought through and they've gamed out how do we clear the runway, and what are the things that could stop us? And this is a small but telling example of how many detailed thoughts there have been about this administration.
You know, I will tell you,
ahead,
the point that the speaker just made can't be underscored. The 4 years that these guys spent out of power, America First Policy Institute, the Heritage Foundation, have all been saying, okay, well, how do we take that policy that was talked about, write it all out? Who are the right people to staff it? How do we get it through? How do we overcome these obstacles? I think when I said this earlier, you're going to see President Trump come out of the gate on January 20th in a way that I don't think anybody's fully appreciating now. They know what they want to do, how they want to do it, and whom they want it to do in a way that you wouldn't have had in back-to-back administrations.
And let me just say one last thing. I'll get out of your way, Mark. But to build on what Sean just said, it's not January 20th. He's already negotiating the end of the Ukraine war. I mean, Trump is moving every day. I'm sure he and Elon Musk are thinking through the nature of the commission Musk will head up to profoundly change the domestic government. And so, I mean, I think Trump will have done more between now and getting sworn in than probably any president in history.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Sean's point about how it's not a back-to-back term. So he had 4 years to think about it. He's got in Susie someone who's a great implementer. He knows what he wants to do. And the Democrats, of course, are divided and dispirited. And some of them are going to want to work with him because they think it's the right thing to do for the country and politically. So he's in a very, very strong position and coming in January. Mr. Speaker, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
And by the way, for all the Democrats thinking this is a conspiracy, this is exactly what the Democrats do when they're out of power at the Center for American Progress in Brookings. You have a shadow government. People who want to serve in the next administration go to think tanks and law firms to kind of spin their wheels and plan their next, opportunity at power. This is how the game works.